Hello everyone, today I'm here to share my story. Life in Jammu and Kashmir is not easy when there are constant threats, blackouts, protests, and that's why my parents early on decided that they would ensure that I attain the best possible education. So they sent me to an international boarding school when I was 8 years old. I was startled to see the freedoms that some of my peers were experiencing at this young juncture of life. And every day in Woodstock felt like a new experience, and that is why I soon forgot about the plight of my people back home. Whenever I watched the news, it never felt the same. It looked like I was simply looking above the hardships of my people because I stopped feeling that emotional connection and bond with the people in my community. I thought I was different because I lived differently. I thought I was different because I lived far away. But was I really different? Anyways, that's a question to answer in the end. But to lighten the mood, let me introduce myself. My name is Tawishi. I'm from Jammu and Kashmir, India, and I studied in an international boarding school. My roommate is Canadian, my classmates are from all over the world, and I consider myself a modern age hipster trying to find my identity in between all of this. So who am I, you must be wondering? Well, I'm a Kashmiri girl from the Dogra community who studies in an international school and has a global vision because of the people around me. And I am who I am today because of the people in my community. I would like to say I'm none of the above, yet I'm a mix of it all. I am an introverted person who once hated the process of getting to know new people, but I loved it when I was able to connect with these people with these diverse ideas and thoughts. It's ironic, right? Because I hate the process, but I love the outcome. So I never did. I mean, if I didn't, why would I be here in front of all of you today? I started a women's self-help group during the pandemic through a virtual fundraiser, and that was only possible because I connected with a lot of people with diverse ideas. But initially, it was a very traumatizing experience because you never know with people you see. They could either like you or they could not. But this process became easier, and how did that happen? It happened because I stopped believing I was different. And that is the reason I was able to connect with these people. Let me explain. Oftentimes, we get so indulged in observing our differences that we forget that our roots are the same. My task was to get underprivileged women to work with me. Simple, right? And I know what it sounds like. I promise I'm not a capitalist. But it was so difficult because I believed I was different. And this was the reason why I felt detached, why we all feel detached. Detached from our true emotions, detached from the life that was once so precious, and most importantly, detached from the people that once mattered. We worry for what we will be like when we go back. Will I simply be an outsider? Will they even accept me? And we wonder, why did I put my legs in two boats? Should I have just picked one? But we can never pick one because we can never let go. I could never let go. So, how do we not let go and feel connected? We do that by moving forward despite our differences. Because it's not the difference between us and the people who we are trying to connect with which is drifting us apart, but rather the feeling of feeling different. So, stop feeling different. But how do we feel the same as the people who have different values, cultures, traditions, languages? Stop asking yourself that question, but rather ask yourself, what are the ways in which we are connected? And this is what I call the intersection. It's that one common point which connects us with all these people who we want to connect with. But once you find that intersection, stop and listen. A year ago, I went to this meditation camp where we had to introduce ourselves and say, I am yours. Well, I still don't know what I am yours means because I left the camp, but I was the first one to finish. And a few weeks pass and I see this girl from across the street who yells my name and says, Hey Tawishi. I'm so startled because I literally know no one in my hometown. But she's approaching fast and I am thinking fast. And now we are face to face and she introduces herself. I somewhat try to place her in my memories, and this is when it hits me. Oh right, she was the girl from a few weeks ago who finished last that day. She introduces herself and I pretend like I know her already, trying to continue the conversation. But thinking back at it now, wow, I feel so important because she remembered me from that one day where we had to interact with like 50 people. And because of this, she becomes instantly more likable and we are still friends till today. Is this because she remembered my name? Not really. but yes at the same time. She remembered the littlest details about something I said and took the initiative. Initiative is a thing we should focus on. So now let's think about it. The simplest way to connect is to listen. When we listen to something someone said and use that to connect with them, the person we are trying to connect with feels like we care. When if you can make someone believe that you care about them, you form a bond. And when there's a bond, there's a connect. And this is exactly what I did to connect with rural women in my community. Listening became a strength I leveraged, and I used the power of listening as a tool to build deeper connections with the women in my community. I thought if I could speak the same language as the people in my community, I would be able to form a deeper connection with them, and this would be my point of intersection. And for the first time, this is when I reached out to someone to help me, my house helper. And even though she wasn't convinced initially, I was able to convince her to help me out. I mean, I pestered her into doing it anyways. But as time passed on, we continued speaking Dogri, and every day we would start off the day with a new conversation in Dogri. She would tell me about the people in my community. She would tell me about the favorite songs of the women. She would tell me about their daughters. She would tell me about how we could all work together to form a team. And soon I started to understand and speak the language fluently. At least that's what I thought. And after a few weeks, I'm confident and ready to conquer the world. And my house helper finally arranged a meeting for me to talk with 5 women in my community. We all sat in a circle. I had arranged snacks and drinks for them, and I started talking in Dogri. But the second it started, I thought it all fell apart. The feeling of it being over before it even began. I was saying everything and anything, and nothing made sense. Everyone was giggling while I was tearing up. Was my idea stupid? Did I not make any sense? And by the end of it, it felt as if no one was really taking me seriously. As I finished my speech, they all started clapping. All humiliated, I looked at my Didi as she came running and gave me a big pat on the back and hugged me. All confused, I asked her if they were collectively trolling me, but her response really startled me. She said no one had ever really treated them with so much respect. No one had ever really come to them and talked to them in a way which I was doing today, and no one had ever truly listened to them. My Didi had told them how much effort I had put in that day to meet all of them, and they already had a glimpse of the ideas. So even if they comprehended only half the things I said, or even less than half, I had done my job. I now had 5 women who believed in me. I understood that singing Dogri songs with them, dancing with them, talking to them in our own language was our point of intersection. Why would anyone believe a 16-year-old girl who promises to give them jobs? But they did. They believed in me. And in order to make those 2 lines intersecting become parallel and eventually connect, I had to put in consistent effort. Consistent effort in not just listening, but taking initiative. And this is because despite our so-believed differences, language, religion, faith, culture, we were able to connect for a common cause because of this common point we had. And eventually we were able to become a family. Despite all your differences with whosoever you want to create a deeper connection with, find that intersection and utilize it to create deeper connections with people in your community. When you're able to connect with one individual, use that to create a chain of relations. And because now it's not just you connecting with the world, but it's the world connecting right back at you. And this is exactly what happened as my plan materialized and as I moved forward. People started reaching out to me, and the reason this was able to happen was because we had mutual connections and we had that point of intersection, that point of ideas which were mutual. No matter how hard I tried not to care or how much I acted like it didn't really matter, at the end of the day I failed to recognize that it always did. You know, there's always this transparent string that pulls you right back to where you started. But it's not the place where it pulls you back to, rather the people and your interactions with the community. And that's why it's so hard to let go, because it shaped us into who we are today. So we can never really say we lost touch with our roots, because if we truly did, the thought of our roots would never even cross our minds in the first place. We may not realize it, but when the time comes, we do. Because I did too. Having lived half my life in Woodstock, I was convinced I was different from the people in my community. However, wearing my Woodstock shoe in one foot and my Kashmiri shoe on the other made me realize how important it is not to let go. Because during the pandemic, I was able to understand the importance of rekindling connections and how it's not just about reconnecting because we never truly disconnect. However, when we try to rekindle connections, it's a path which feels so alien yet familiar, a process which feels so warm but lonely sometimes. But in the end, it's worth it because we rediscover ourselves again. No matter how far we run away or how much we act like it doesn't matter, if it once truly mattered to us, we can never completely forget it. With my experiences during the pandemic, I learned this and I became someone with so much compassion and love towards humankind because I understood the importance of looking beyond differences and connecting with people. If everyone moves forward with such a mentality, we will be able to create unbreakable bonds in our community. And this is why I'm glad to say I put my legs in both boats.